Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Reverend Anthony D. Schufer, Canine Handling Trainer. Today, I would like to share with you all some important information. And here it is. If you are not reading the Word of God, if you're not studying the Word of God, if you're not striving to learn the Word of God, you're going to miss out on a lot in life, okay? You're going to miss out on a lot in life because when you read the Word of God, that is how you begin to hear God's voice. That's how you begin to learn about God, but also that's how you begin to, guess what? Enlarge your faith. It says, now faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. If you read the word of God, you will hear the voice of the Lord. When we start looking at the Bible within itself, the Bible is a series of books that are compiled into an actual library, which is compiled into, guess what, one volume of book. There's over 66 books that are found in the Word of God. And the Word of God in itself has all answers to the questions of life. Today I was reading the book of Jonah. And what is so powerful about it is, the Lord spoke to me and I began to just see so many aspects of the Word of God for how we can apply what took place in Jonah's life to our lives in order for us to better understand that when God calls us, we are not to run away from him. So now check this out. I'm just going to give you a nice little overview. All right. So God commanded Jonah to go to Nineveh. Okay. Nineveh was a place where the Assyrians occupied that actual territory and that actual kingdom. Well, the Assyrians enslaved the actual Hebrews. Jonah was an actual Hebrew. Can you believe that? So imagine God sending you to an actual territory where these people had, guess what? Enslaved your family, enslaved your people, all right? Or your tribe. Well, Jonah sat back and said, well, okay, then, Lord, of course, here's the deal. I believe in you. I trust in you, but I will not listen and I will not follow you. So Jonah decided to go to Tarsh, which is westward, instead of going to eastward over to Nineveh. But it's amazing that he paid his way to, guess what, sail away from the will and the call of God. Well, once he got into the ship, well, the Lord sit back and say, well, okay, if you're going to be disobedient unto me, now it's time for me to bring a little bit of act right to you. So God sent a tempest of a storm to the sea to where the ship in itself was going to break in half. Now, understand, all of the occupants that was on that vessel who was actual ship sailors that were ungodly, they were praying and screaming out to their gods. Jonah was in the belly of the ship, or the bow of the ship, right? He was below and he was just sleeping. There's a commonality to when Jesus was with the disciples in the middle of the sea and the storm came, Jesus was sleeping too as well. Now, there's a parallel there to let you know that when God has called you and anointed you, here's the deal. You don't have nothing to fear because of the fact of you walking in alignment and agreement with God. And if God is for you, what and who can be against you? Because in the word of God, it says neither death, nor life, nor demon, nor angel, nor man can separate the love that God has, guess what? For his beloved, for his follower, for his believer, all right? For those who are saved. Understand, for all things work together for those who are called according to God's will and God's purpose. So therefore, Jonah had faith in knowing that no matter what happens, that God is for him and God is not against him, even when it comes down into correction. Now, the men begin to, guess what? Speak amongst themselves and say, okay, wait a minute. You're praying to your God, you're praying to your God, you're praying to their God, but wait a minute, where's Jonah at? Jonah is not praying or calling out to his God. They went out to the bow of the ship, woke him up and said, hey, listen, you need to pray unto your God to, guess what? Begin to bring forth peace to the midst of the storm so that we don't break the ship doesn't break, and we sink and we drown and perish. But then they sit back and they say, well, first of all, they begin to cast lots to figure out, well, what and who is the cause of this? Guess what? They were able to come to the conclusion that it was Jonah. They asked him, where are you from? They ask him, what God do you serve? And they ask him, who are you? He says, I'm a Hebrew and I serve the God who created the heavens and the earth, who created even the seas. The men begin to, guess what, shake in fear. And then Jonah began to tell them that, guess what? God told him to go to Nineveh, and he chose to, guess what, go in the opposite direction. I want you all to understand, isn't it amazing whenever things go wrong that even unbelievers will come to the believer and try to get the believer to call upon the God of all creation, the one and only God, the great I am? I don't know if anybody out there has experienced this, but you know you have some unsaved friends, right? But you're saved. But those unsaved friends were the ones who always mocked you. But as soon as life happens, you become the counselor. You become the sounding block. You become the shoulder to cry upon, the shoulder to lean upon. But in this situation right here, even in the midst of, guess what, Jonah's disobedience, Jonah was able to, guess what, still minister before the men by way of his bold testimony. Jonah said, hey, if you want this to end, cast me into the sea. The men sit back and say, well, you know what? We don't want to shed innocent blood. They sit back, got into a vessel out of the ship and tried to take them to land, and the sea wouldn't let them. God will not let them, right? Then, guess what? They cried out to God and asked God that innocent blood shall not be upon their hands. And then they finally, guess what? Cast Jonah into the sea, where God had prepared a great sea creature, a great fish that swallowed him whole. But notice what took place afterwards. The men that were ungodly, they repented before the Lord. They made sacrifices before the Lord, and they made vows before the Lord. That means that these ungodly men were saved through the chastisement of Jonah's disobedience, and as well as they were saved by way of God's hand and correction upon Jonah, because of the fact that when they cast Jonah into the sea became still, and guess what? The storm ceased and left, right? What I'm here to share with you this very day, that Jonah was in the belly of that fish for 3 days. And he repented of the Lord. He cried upon the Lord. And at the 3rd day, after he had found forgiveness, the sea monster, the sea great fish, spit him, threw him up on the actual shores, and God had called him to go forth and preach unto Nineveh, where the king heard about the great revival, and even the king bowed down in ashes, and he put his cloak upon him, and they put sackcloth upon him, and even the king gave his life over to God. So what I'm sharing with you this very day, that you do not want to turn your back on God, because God has a plan and purpose for your life. But even, guess what? Even after God did a wondrous work through Jonah, Jonah walked out of the city, and Jonah began to become very angry and bitter with the Lord. He was angry and bitter with the Lord because the Lord showed grace and mercy unto the Ninevites, unto the Assyrians, unto the actual people that enslaved the actual Hebrews. Do you understand me? Who held them in captivity, who had them as, guess what, slavery. Yes, the Hebrews are responsible for, guess what, by way of slavery, for building the Assyrian Empire. Can you believe that? Right? But the reason why, guess what, the Hebrews were enslaved by the Assyrians was because of their disobedience before the Lord. Idol worship, sexual immorality, pride, all of these different things were the reason why the children of Israel found themselves in bondage. Yes, sin will lead you into captivity to be disciplined by way of the hand of God. So Jonah, he himself was not able to get over his unforgiveness for the Assyrians, to the point to where he was willing to die in the midst of, guess what, unforgiveness. But I want you all to understand that when God sends you forth, it is for you to forgive because number one, you're not God and you're not the judge. Number two, you do not want to be disobedient in the eyes of the Lord because the Lord can send you into captivity in order to discipline you and correct you. And there's number three, it is better for you to surrender before the Lord in order for you to glorify and honor the Lord, for you to, guess what, be able to honor the Lord through the works of your hands, to bless the Lord at all times and to save all that is lost through your testimony. So God bless you and keep you.